About a month ago, my wife suggested we go see a counselor to work on our communication. I was hesitant, but agreed to go. We had our first session, and I thought it was very positive. We both had some things to bring up, but I left excited to start improving our relationship. I thought she felt the same. Starting a few days later, she was very cold and short with me for about 10 days. I thought it was just something bugging her, so I tried to give her some time, and I did some extra things around the house to maybe try to please her. A couple of days ago, she sat me down and told me she feels we're not the same people as we used to be, and she's not romantically interested in me anymore. She's been feeling this way for a while, but didn't know how to bring it up. She said she can't just give it 10 years or so, and doesn't think it will really get better, and the takeaways from the counselor she thought were minor things and won't help. She also said if we met now, she wouldn't date me. This was devastating for me. I haven't eaten for almost 2 days, crying and barely sleeping. We just got back from our second counseling session and discussed everything. She said she's willing to continue to go and try to fix the relationship, but I felt major hesitation, and she bluntly said she doesn't think it will change her feelings. I understand everything she was saying, and I tried to say that we've been together a very long time, 15 years altogether, and relationships have their ups and downs, but together we can get back on track. Additional info: we have 2 kids, ages 7 and 9. She has a much better career and makes about twice as much as I do. I think she's very attractive, more so than me. I still have a decent career and make about $85,000. I think I'm also attractive, but I've put on some extra weight. I seriously think we can be happy again. I think I still am. But it's going to take work, and I want to do everything I can to save my marriage. Any suggestions would be helpful. To add, 2 days later, I don't know if anyone will still read this, but I think writing an update will help me a bit. Thanks for all the comments. Some were hard to read, but I still appreciated the feedback. I'm still really struggling with this, sleeping at about 50% and my appetite at about 10%, crying quite a bit. But trying to talk to friends and family has really been helping. I've decided to take the advice to spend the next while working on myself. Diet and exercise mostly, going on a lot of walks. Note, I mentioned I gained weight. I'm not huge, weighing 198 pounds at 5 feet 9 inches tall. My goal is 175 pounds. This has already helped and will help me long term, no matter which way this goes. I have a really good relationship with my kids, so I'm continuing to be there for them and be strong. My daughter has caught me during a couple of breakdowns, though, and gave me lots of hugs. I've been just saying I haven't been feeling well. She's so sweet. My wife and I haven't had any major discussions, keeping things light, but I think that's positive. I think I'm starting to accept she's already made up her mind and is just going through the motions, but I'm also holding hope there's still a chance, as small as that is. So until it's final, I'm going to continue working on myself, do projects and chores around the house, continue being a good father, and not chase after her. That last point is very hard for me. All I want to do is hug her and talk about it. But I realize that isn't for the best, and so far I've been good. No crying or being upset around her either. I'm trying to do what is best for me and recognizing I can't make her decisions. Regarding the major issues we have, I believe her when she tells me we're different people now, as hard as that is to take. I think there are some other things as well she hasn't said. I mentioned below about her friend who is separated now and living her best life. I know they've talked, and I think she's telling my wife that life is better. Her friend group consists of a lot of other high earners. She just went to a party at one of their nice houses with a pool, and they hired a bartender. Our other friends just put an addition on their house and bought a $60,000 electric car, both things she wanted. We decided the addition wasn't affordable at the time, 5 years ago, and we just talked about an electric car, and I was asking her to consider a used one. As much as we're not in this class, we're still doing very well financially, about $250,000 in mortgage debt, with a $900,000 house and a $400,000 cottage and a good retirement plan. 95% of people would want to be in our position. It's just not the upper class of two really high earners. I think she sees this better life as a possibility with another high-income earner. I don't think there's another man in the picture, as some have suggested, but eventually there could be, and one that is better than me. Her parents are also divorced. Her dad left twice and came back until finally cheating and leaving for good. I'm sure my wife thought he should have just left the first time instead of wasting time, but I don't think they made any effort to help their marriage. Some people have mentioned there could be hormone changes and possibly a midlife crisis happening. I think that could also be something that's happening, but I don't plan on mentioning it. Going forward, the next few days and week, I'm going to continue to work on myself and be friendly around the house, making sure not to chase her and avoiding any major discussions. She said we're still together, so I was going to suggest a light date, maybe something where we watch a comedy show or something where we don't have to talk about light things or major things. We have another counseling appointment in 3 weeks, and I hope not to have to discuss major relationship issues until then. As small as the chance is, I'm going to work on myself as long as she gives me the opportunity if the separation talk happens. I hope to show her I'm working on myself and can change. If she decides to really try, I think we can get back on track. I really do. If this is the beginning of the end, I know I tried as hard as I can for this relationship and family, and working on myself will help me in the next couple of years. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If I were to step into your shoes, I would focus on myself, my children, and my career. I would hit the gym, start reading some books. A good one for you would be No More Mr. Nice Guy. I would focus on my diet and ensure I build some muscle. I would listen to podcasts about self-improvement and marriage, but I would prioritize myself and my kids. I would ensure I complete my chores around the house. If you don't cook, make sure I'm cooking meals, washing up after myself and the kids, and ensuring I'm living like a single father. I would also read about the 180 and gray rock and implement these emotional strategies into my communication with her. I would not date or put myself out there, but I would not focus on her anymore or try to make her happy. When you go back to the counselor, I would let them know what I am reading and where my focus now lies, because I would say I am not going to try and get her to love me. I am going to focus on loving myself, because I can't make her love me, nor will I try. Comment 2. Focus on yourself first. Get in shape, update your wardrobe, and find activities that allow you to nurture relationships outside of your marriage. At the same time, if you want to fight for her, you're going to need to put effort there too. Are you doing your fair share around the house? How much time do you spend online or gaming? Do you use drugs or abuse alcohol? How often do you treat your wife like you did when you dated? Compliments, dates, spontaneous acts, etc. She's doing you a favor by telling you how she feels. So there is hope if you want to put in the effort. Now, for the update. 2 weeks after the last counseling session, the kids were super excited to see their grandparents. They got all hyped about helping with the decorations. My parents have been married for 40 years. I never thought I'd say this, but I think my wife and I are headed for divorce. The kids and I decided to host a family dinner at our house for my parents' anniversary. I spent the afternoon cooking a big lasagna while my wife set the table. The kids were running around like crazy, helping out and being all adorable. I was getting lost in the moment, trying to forget about the rough patch my wife and I were in. Dinner was good, and we all sat around the table, talking and eating. Then my sister-in-law mentioned her recent trip to a tropical island. My wife seemed distracted. She was scrolling through her phone while the family chatted about travel. I could see her face change when she saw a picture of a friend's fancy vacation on her phone. I just wanted to shake her and tell her to pay attention to her family. After dinner, the kids went to play in their room, and the adults continued chatting. My dad asked if my wife and I had any upcoming plans for a getaway. I joked about needing a break. Right then, I felt my wife stiffen next to me. It was like someone flipped a switch. Later that night, while cleaning up, I saw a text notification pop up on my wife's phone. It was from a contact named Jess, a friend of hers. My curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the text. which mentioned meeting up that weekend. The next day, while picking up groceries, I saw this couple walking hand in hand, and it reminded me of what I was missing. I tried to bring up a lighthearted date idea with my wife, but she brushed it off, saying she was too tired. A few days later, I was in the kitchen when I overheard her on a phone call. She was speaking softly, but I could catch snippets of her conversation, mentioning someone named Mark. That night, I confronted her about it, and she said it was just a work friend and not to worry. I don't know why, but I felt like I was losing her more and more every day. I spent the next few days trying to keep things light, but the sense of unease lingered. During a family outing to the local zoo, my wife seemed distant, often looking at her phone instead of engaging with the kids. I took the kids on a carousel ride and looked back to see my wife scrolling again. I felt so frustrated. It was like she was in a different world. I suggested we take a family photo, but she refused, saying she wasn't feeling well. A week later, we went to a birthday party for our neighbor's child. My wife's old college friend was there, and she casually mentioned how great it was to see my wife thriving and enjoying life. That struck me as odd. I noticed my wife's eyes light up when her friend talked about a recent promotion and travel opportunities. Afterward, I tried to ask her about it, but she quickly changed the subject. The tension at home was growing. The kids began to notice their parents arguing more frequently. I caught her texting late at night with Jess again, and I felt a knot in my stomach. I decided to talk to her about my concerns, but she shut me down, saying I was being paranoid. The following weekend, the kids had a soccer game. My wife didn't show up, claiming she had a last-minute commitment. I called her, and she answered, sounding distracted and hurried. After the game, I found out from a friend that my wife was seen at a cafe with a man I didn't recognize. I felt so betrayed. Later that night, I confronted her about it, and she insisted it was just a work meeting. The argument escalated, and she accused me of invading her privacy by checking her phone. The next day, I decided to take the kids out for ice cream. While we were out, I got a text from my wife, asking me to meet her at our favorite restaurant to talk. At the restaurant, she confessed she had feelings for someone else, but didn't know what to do. We agreed to separate for a while, but I was uncertain about the future of our family. Edit. After my wife confessed her feelings for someone else, we agreed to separate for 4 months. During this time, we both went to individual therapy. We have been living in the same house, but sleeping in separate rooms. The kids are aware that something has changed, but not the details. Am I the idiot for playing video games and being called an intimacy worker by my jealous boyfriend? A situation came up yesterday that has now led to him, for the 100th time, being blocked on my phone. Our relationship is and has been very rocky from the beginning. We've been together for a year, long distance, and it's been difficult. From the start, he told me about his past of being cheated on multiple times and how it has led him to have insecurities and trust issues, which isn't an issue for me. The issue arises when he tries to express those insecurities or trust issues. Yesterday, while he was at work, we have a 7-hour difference, but he works overnights, so we're pretty much on the same schedule. I was sifting through games, YouTube videos, and Netflix trying to find something to do. I've been bored and burnt out on most of my games and have been desperately on the lookout for something new. While scrolling on Steam, I found a game I thought looked cool. The game has proximity voice chat and is fairly small at the time of writing this, with about 200 reviews on Steam or so. I played that game in total for 7 hours yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. During that time, my boyfriend got home from work, and we talked for 5 minutes before something happened that made me upset, and I hung up. After that, I continued to play the game. He called me later that night before going to sleep, and we talked for a bit before he asked me what I had been doing that day. I was a bit hesitant to mention the game immediately because I knew exactly what his reaction would be. And I was right, because I'm writing this, but I wasn't going to hide it from him. I first told him I played Dead by Daylight, and then when he asked what else, I mentioned the game. I don't remember exactly which insult came first, but he immediately got upset with me and called me a intimacy worker. He said I was whoring myself for guys being an intimacy lover and following guys around all day. This was about the reaction I expected, and I tried to tell him that I know he's upset and uncomfortable with this, but he can't ban me from playing multiplayer games or games with voice chat, and that he should communicate effectively so we can discuss it. I said this multiple times, but he never took the opportunity. Instead, he went on to call me an intimacy worker and an intimacy lover multiple more times. Said that I don't care about him or respect the relationship. Said that I'm not loyal, that I'm just getting in games with guys, surrounding myself with guys and following guys around. I told him over and over again that I'm not doing any of that and that I'm playing the game normally like everyone else. But he wouldn't listen. He even went on to say that he knows I did this because he installed a virus on my computer and he can see and hear everything I'm doing. So I told him that if that was true, he wouldn't be saying any of the things he just said. I want to make it extremely clear that these accusations have nothing to do with me and are based on his insecurities from past relationships. He's tried to blame them on me multiple times, but I'm not an intimacy worker or an intimacy lover. Not even remotely close, and I don't do and haven't done the things he's claiming I'm doing. He's banned me from playing Valorant and Phasmophobia, which I'm honestly fine with. I can barely play Dead by Daylight, a game with no voice chat and barely any text chat, without him claiming I'm flirting with someone or looking for attention anytime I'm interacting with another player or the unalived. I tried to tell him it's enriching to play games that involve other people, and it's wrong and controlling of him to tell me I can't. He then told me that good girls and good girlfriends play single-player games, and good girls are loyal to their boyfriends, like I'm not loyal for playing a game with voice chat. He won't give up on this, and while trying to get me to unblock him, he is still saying I'm playing games with guys. I don't know how to make him understand that he can't control me like this and that it's wrong. He's also claiming that he knows what I'm like, and that's why he's so scared of this, when I'm nothing like that at all. I've spent so much time under a microscope trying to prove myself to him and escape the box I've been put in by his insecurities. I'm tired of being called an intimacy worker, because this would be the millionth time, and I feel like I'm going insane and being gaslit and manipulated into believing what he's saying about this is valid and okay. I need some solid advice, please. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, I could not finish reading. This is hurtful and controlling even without touching on this age gap. Please get out. You should be able to play whatever game you want with whoever you want. You should not be scared to tell him about a game. If you can't talk to him about a game without fear, how can you talk to him about anything? Comment 2. He's 8 years older than you and trying to isolate and control you. You know this isn't a healthy relationship. Say goodbye and block him. You are not responsible for his emotions. It doesn't matter what he claims. He can manage his own behavior. He doesn't get to manage yours. Now, for the update. A few days after the argument about gaming, my boyfriend hit me with this text saying, "Who were you playing with online? Be honest." Like, seriously? He was still stuck on that? So I replied, saying I was just playing with some friends, but that wasn't enough for him. He wanted usernames and real names. I was like, dude, what's the point? But he kept pushing, saying if I didn't come clean, he'd break up with me. I felt so cornered, like I had no choice, so I reluctantly gave him the usernames of the people I gamed with. His response, just a dismissive, "Is this all?" And then he accused me of being involved with someone else. I was done. I didn't even want to game anymore because it just brought more conflict. So I told him I was taking a break from it. His reaction was to criticize me for being weak and not standing up for myself. Like, what the hell? We had a family dinner planned at his parents' house for the weekend. During dinner, he just had to bring up the gaming issue in front of his family. I felt so small. His parents looked confused and uncomfortable, and his mom awkwardly tried to change the subject, but he just kept pressing. After dinner, his younger brother joked about me needing to play nice and not upset his brother. The boyfriend actually laughed at that joke, making me feel even worse. I tried to talk to him privately after dinner, but he brushed me off, saying I was being dramatic. We went back to my place afterward, and the tension was just so thick. He accused me of ruining the family dinner with my gaming habits. I argued that he was the one who brought it up at dinner, so it wasn't my fault. He yelled, saying he didn't want to be with someone who wouldn't put him first. The next day, he told me he needed space to think about things. A week later, he called, saying he wanted to meet up. We met at this coffee shop, and he said he talked to his friends about our issues. They all agreed I was at fault for the conflict. He just kept accusing me of being selfish and not understanding his feelings. When I tried to explain, he dismissed everything I said, saying I was just making excuses. Then he dropped this news. He had been talking to someone else online, claiming it was just a friend. He said this online friend understood him better than I did. He ended the conversation by blocking me on social media. No going back after that. To answer a few questions, the usernames I provided to him were of people I had never met in real life. He knew this, and I had told him before that I only played with friends I was familiar with in the game. His family had no idea about our issues, and I felt embarrassed by his public confrontation. I had no idea who he was talking to online, and I didn't care. I just wanted to be out of that situation. Am I the idiot for locking myself in the bathroom while my partner destroys our home? My partner, a 38-year-old male, and I have been together for 4 years. Throughout the relationship, he has had anger issues where once every 4 months or so, when his patience is very low, or when he is really tired and we get into an argument, he becomes very violent and starts screaming at the top of his lungs, hitting himself, nearby furniture, walls, and throwing whatever he can find across the room. Please note, he has never laid a finger on me. If we happen to be driving when that happens, he starts driving erratically, making me scared for my life. Fast forward to today, I am currently 4 months pregnant with a child that he says he has wanted all his life. I made him swear that he would control his outbursts, especially when I am pregnant, as they terrify me. Well, the other day we got into an argument, and I was particularly hormonal and snappy, not proud of it, but you know, the unpleasant side of a pregnant woman, and he lost it. He started screaming like I have never heard him scream. He ripped off the t-shirt he had on with his bare hands, tearing it to pieces, threw a bar stool across the living room, broke my flower pots, and started hitting the walls repeatedly. I was so scared I was shaking like a leaf and ran into the bathroom to lock myself in, as I was scared he would hurt me. He now tells me that I started it, and that everybody has their limits, but that I know him and that I should know he would never hurt me directly. I feel completely heartbroken that he would act so violently and scare me like this when I am pregnant with his child. I told him I am pretty sure this counts as domestic violence and abuse, and he says that I am the aggressor since I started it, and it is just a normal couple argument that everybody goes through. I'm pregnant, I'm scared, I feel betrayed and gaslighted. I need an external view on this. Is this bad? Is this domestic violence? Thank you so much. To add, I am a very empathetic person and understand that life and the human experience is not always black and white. The main reason I am asking this question to others today is because the dilemma in my mind is this just a childhood trauma coming up as anger issues that could be fixed with anger management therapy? As he is an awesome, supportive partner 99% of the time outside of his outbursts. Or am I really in potential danger of a serious domestic violence incident? Almost forgot. His anger fits are not only directed at me. He lost his previous job because of it, broke a bus shelter glass after getting dumped as a teenager, and destroyed boxes of medical equipment in his previous job's stockroom when he received some bad news about something. When he goes cuckoo, it can happen anytime, anywhere. He was raised by his mom, who reacted this way throughout his childhood. She would break his things when he acted poorly, throw objects across the room, etc. Thank you to everyone who replied to my post. Your messages have helped me more than you know. Trauma response and love for the person, or what is left of it, have a funny way of clouding one's judgment. Again, thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yes, this is domestic violence. Keeping you in fear by throwing items and being violent to things around you is absolutely domestic violence. It doesn't matter if you're the one who started the fight, it's domestic violence. You surely know many people who you've seen at their limit, or people who are annoyed at an argument, and sure enough, they don't act like him, do they? Shifting blame for their actions to you is a classic abuse tactic. Does ring a bell in your relationship? He now tells me that I started it and that everybody has their limits, but that I know him and that I should know he would never hurt me directly. Everybody thinks this right up until they get hurt directly. You need to get out. Science says this is one of the most common warning signs of hurting you or your baby in the future. Comment 2. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. And I hate to say it, but it is absolutely domestic violence. Even if he hasn't laid a finger on you, intimidating or threatening you is already bad enough. Purposefully breaking your things adds to that. Him driving recklessly or throwing things may not be intended to hurt you, but they very well could. If he loses control of the car when he's just trying to scare you, his intent doesn't change the outcome. What if he throws something and misses his aim, hitting you instead? And when your baby is big enough to move around, the risks get amplified. I truly hope that you have some kind of support system to lean on, because I promise that you don't want someone like that around your baby. Sincerely, someone with a parent who was like that. Now for the update. I'm in a tough spot with my partner after a family barbecue went wrong, asking for advice. 1 week after our fight, I went to my parents' house for dinner to clear my head. I told them what happened, but not every detail. They made a big meal, and my dad was happy to see me. My mom asked how the pregnancy was going and suggested we start planning a baby shower. It was too early for that, but I said I'd think about it. During dinner, my brother mentioned his recent promotion at work, and the conversation shifted to family achievements. My dad jokingly asked when my partner and I were getting married, which made me feel uneasy. I brushed it off, saying we were focused on the baby for now, and tried to change the subject. After dinner, my mom offered to help with any baby-related shopping, which I reluctantly agreed to. While we browsed baby items, I got a text from my partner asking where I was. I told him I was with my parents, and he responded with a simple, "Okay." Later, my mom shared old baby photos of me, sparking nostalgia. My sister-in-law mentioned we should all get together for a family barbecue next weekend. A few days passed without incident, but the atmosphere at home stayed awkward. On the day of the barbecue, my partner seemed unusually calm and supportive. The family gathered in the backyard, and everything started off well. My partner even helped cook, which surprised everyone. As the evening went on, a family member brought up a sensitive topic about childhood experiences. The atmosphere changed when the conversation turned to my partner's upbringing. He suddenly reacted defensively, raising his voice and making everyone uncomfortable. I tried to step in, but he dismissed me, insisting everyone was misunderstanding him. My brother stepped in to calm things down, but it only made my partner angrier. Eventually, he stormed off, slamming the door behind him. Later, I found him sitting in the car, fuming. We got into a heated argument, and I demanded to know why he couldn't control himself. He accused me of provoking him, claiming I wanted to make him look bad in front of my family. I left the car, shaking my head in frustration. The next day, he sent a bunch of texts claiming he was just stressed. I ignored the texts, focusing on my family instead. I told my parents about the argument, and they expressed concern for my safety. When I got home, I found him waiting, looking sorry. To my surprise, he agreed to seek help for his issues after some back and forth. In a moment of clarity, I decided to message a mutual acquaintance about his outbursts. The acquaintance was shocked and offered to help me connect with resources for support. Right now, I'm planning to attend a local support group determined to make a change. Edit. My partner's outburst at the barbecue surprised my family. We all thought he was making progress and had things under control. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.